I found out in the most casual way possible. Mom was on the phone, sitting at the kitchen table, balancing her checkbook like she still lived in 1997. I wasn't eavesdropping, not intentionally anyway. But when she said, "Well, we had to use Mia's fund. We couldn't let Ellie and Brandon live in that apartment any longer," I froze mid-step. I had just come back from my shift at the bookstore, sweaty and sore. I worked 30 hours a week while balancing community college classes online, classes I never wanted. My dream was to study architecture at the University of Washington. I had been accepted, but that dream disappeared last fall when my parents told me money was tight. "No more college fund," they said. "You'll just have to take out loans like everyone else." But now, hearing that call, I knew it hadn't disappeared. It had been relocated right into Ellie's name. Ellie, my older sister, the golden one. The one who'd dropped out of school to build her dream with Brandon, a guy who still worked part-time at a vape shop and played guitar in a band that never played a gig. They'd had a baby 6 months ago, little Gracie. Everyone fawned over her. Everyone said how strong Ellie was for raising a child in a one-bedroom with water damage and cockroach traps behind every appliance. And apparently, my future was the price of their fresh start. I walked into the kitchen slowly. Mom looked up, still holding the cordless phone against her shoulder like she didn't just say something that cracked my ribs open. "Hey, sweetie. There's leftover casserole in the fridge." I didn't ask. I didn't yell. I just said, "What fund?" She blinked. The shift was subtle but immediate. Her smile dimmed. Her shoulders tensed. She placed the phone down without a word. "Oh. That. Like it was an expired coupon. "I thought we talked about this, Mia. There just wasn't enough to cover tuition. And your sister really needed—" "You said it was gone. You said the market dropped, and there wasn't anything left." "Well, technically that's true. You lied." A pause. And then she said it. The sentence that would replay in my head for months. "We thought you'd understand. You're more independent than Ellie. You always figure things out." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at my bedroom ceiling, surrounded by piles of architecture sketchbooks and old blueprints I'd collected from thrift stores for inspiration. They hadn't even told me. They didn't ask. They stole my future like it was a bank withdrawal and handed it to Ellie, gift wrapped in, "She needs it more." The next week, they invited me to see the new house. I didn't want to go, but curiosity and something darker pulled me there. It was a pale blue, 2-story starter home in a cul-de-sac with rose bushes and a tire swing left behind by the previous owners. It even had a tiny attic with a circular window that overlooked the backyard. I knew because I had dreamed of that. An attic studio for drafting and design. Ellie beamed when I arrived. "Mia, isn't it adorable? And guess what? You'll love this. There's a guest room, perfect for when you babysit Gracie." I blinked. "When I what?" "You know. You're around a lot. And we figured, since Mom said you weren't going to college right now anyway." I stared at her like she was speaking in static. My college fund bought her this house. And now she wanted me to babysit in it? "For free?" I asked. Ellie laughed. "Well, I mean, you'd be helping family." Didn't explode, I didn't cry. I just nodded. And in that moment, with their voices floating from the backyard barbecue, with the sounds of Gracie giggling, and the scent of ribs Dad grilled on my future, I knew something else was quietly forming inside me. I was done. trying to be the understanding one. Done being the invisible backbone of a family that had no idea how much I carried, and if they were going to steal my future, I would rewrite it without them. Not Ellie's casual, "Hey, can you come help me unpack?" voicemail. Not Mom's text that read, "You still coming over Friday? Dad made your favorite chicken." Not even Dad's bland shrug of a message that just said, "You okay?" They had no idea how not okay I was, and I wasn't about to explain it. I needed space, not just physical distance, but mental quiet. The kind that comes only when you stop playing the role they wrote for you. I clocked out of the bookstore late that Thursday. Rain slicked the sidewalks, and my shoes squeaked with each step. On instinct, I walked past the library and into the I, community college's side courtyard. I hadn't really looked at the main campus building since the day I'd decided I couldn't afford to enroll full-time. But that night, I stood in front of the glass doors and whispered to myself, "They think I'm stuck, but I'm not." The next morning, I did 3 things. First, I requested my account records from the education savings plan. It took a week and a lot of back and forth, but I got confirmation. The full balance, just over $47,300, had been withdrawn last year. Legally, it had been in my parents' names as custodians, so it was perfectly within their rights. But that didn't make it right. Second, I logged into the university admissions portal. My acceptance had lapsed, but my portfolio, the one I'd spent years building, was still on file. A quiet email later, I was told I could reapply as a spring transfer, if I could come up with the funding. Third, I opened an anonymous Instagram account. It started as a place to post old sketches. Drafts of homes, staircases, skylights. I didn't use my name, just a handle, reclaiming blueprints, no selfies, no location tags. Just raw design and bitter captions. They bought her a house with my future. Now I'm building my own. I didn't expect traction, but within 3 weeks I had 5,000 followers. A month later, 20,000. One post went viral. A watercolor of a house split in half, one side beautiful and restored, the other crumbling under the weight of obligations. The caption read, "My sister got the house. I got the babysitting job I never asked for. One day they'll knock, and I won't answer." Of course my parents didn't know. Neither did Ellie. They still thought I was floating. Still assumed I'd get over it. That I'd cave. That I'd start babysitting again, like I used to, during the first few chaotic months after Gracie was born. But I had found something. A door they didn't lock, and behind it was me, untouched by their guilt trips, unburdened by the guilt I used to carry when I said no. One afternoon, Mom dropped by the bookstore. She acted like it was nothing. "Oh, I was just in the area." She held a reusable bag from the organic market like it was a peace offering. Inside, hummus, pita chips, and a lemon-scented candle. I didn't ask if she paid for it with the same card that drained my fund. She lingered at the counter as I scanned a customer's book. "You haven't been over in a while," she said. "I've been working." "You're always working." "That's the idea," she sighed. "Ellie really could have used your help last weekend. Brandon had a gig." "Yeah, I was busy building something." She tilted her head. "Building what?" I smiled. "Boundaries." Later that night, I saw Ellie had posted a photo of her kitchen, redone in farmhouse white with brass handles. The caption? "Made possible by love, family, and sacrifice. Blessed for new chapter. The comments were full of praise, people gushing about how lucky she was, how supportive her family must be. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. No one would ever know the truth unless I told them. And I didn't plan to. Not yet. Because public humiliation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. A quiet reversal. A moment where they realize you've built something bigger than they ever thought you could. Without them. That night, I filled out my transfer application. I also submitted a design pitch to a small online architectural magazine that featured underrepresented voices. I attached my most painful work, a blueprint of a home titled Uninvited Guest. 2 days later, they wrote back, "We'd love to feature your piece in our next digital edition." I stared at the email until my vision blurred. They'd given away my foundation, but I was building walls they'd never breach. There's something strangely addictive about being invisible. At first it breaks you. You scream silently into your pillow, wondering how they forgot you existed, except when they needed something. A favor, an errand, a free afternoon of childcare. But when you lean into it, truly lean, invisibility becomes a kind of power. Because while they watch each other, validating themselves with filtered selfies and lukewarm compliments, you become the shadow that learns, that builds, that plots. It was Ellie's baby shower, her second one. She threw it herself this time, calling it a mommy and me milestone party because Gracie had just turned 1. The invitation came late, like an afterthought, and the text read, "Don't worry, you don't need to bring anything, just your energy." As if she was doing me a favor, I RSVP'd yes, and I showed up, wearing black, hair pinned back, eyes sharp. Ellie greeted me at the door, surprised. I hadn't attended any family events in months. "You look professional," she said, scanning me from head to toe. "I am," I replied. "Just came from work." She didn't know that work had changed, that I'd quietly been contracted to illustrate architectural spreads for 3 digital design sites under NDA, that my Instagram following had passed 78,000, that a woman from Vancouver was offering to fund my move, in exchange for helping design her lakeside home. I'd built it all quietly, no screaming, no begging, no updates they could steal. The party was what you'd expect, pastel balloons, cupcakes with baby booties on them, too many moms drinking wine at 2 p.m. I sat by the window and watched them pass Gracie around like a trophy. Ellie called for everyone's attention. She stood beneath a homemade banner that read, "From one house to a home, thank you, family." And then she said it. "I just want to thank my parents," she smiled, glowing in her curated sincerity. "Without your help, and I know. It was a big sacrifice. We never could have gotten this house." My jaw clenched. Then Mom chimed in. "We believe in our children. That's what family does." The crowd clapped. Someone dabbed tears. No one looked at me. That night, I posted a sketch on my burner account. A house with 2 doors, one gilded, one boarded shut. In the caption, I wrote, "My parents gave her a house. They gave me a locked door. I found a hammer." The post hit 1 million impressions in under 24 hours. That same week, I received an invitation to a design residency in Seattle, a 3-month program, all expenses paid, with housing. A portfolio showcase at the end. Sponsored by a firm whose Instagram had just followed mine. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell Ellie. Instead, I sent a polite message in the family group chat. Starting a new chapter soon. We'll be offline for a while. Mom replied, "Is this about money again? We've done our best. Don't hold resentment. It poisons the soul." Ellie chimed in, "Don't be dramatic. You always disappear when you don't get your way." No, one asked what the new chapter was, and I didn't offer it. I left town on a Sunday morning. No goodbye dinner, no teary hugs. Just the sound of the Uber trunk closing as I slid my last suitcase inside. Seattle was colder, louder, hungrier, and I fit in perfectly. By week 2, I was presenting ideas to real clients. They were flawed, messy, imperfect ideas. But mine. One woman, a gallery owner, asked if I could help reimagine her art space using the concept of emotional echo. I gave her a blueprint made of concentric arches and whispered lighting. She cried. "You're young," she said, "but you see more than most people twice your age." No one had ever said that in my house. One evening, I posted a video. The first one where I showed my face. Just a time-lapse of me sketching at a desk, over soft piano music. I said nothing. Wore no makeup. Didn't smile. The caption, they spent my college fund. I spent the next year building a life they can't afford. It blew up overnight. By morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Ellie. "Why are people tagging me in your posts? What is this?" I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, out of peace. I wasn't trying to hurt her. But if the truth stung, that was just the cost of her house. Ellie didn't stop texting for 2 days. First, it was confusion. What is this page even about? Are you seriously playing victim online? Then came guilt. You could have just talked to us instead of airing dirty laundry. Then came the kicker, the part that almost made me laugh. "This is really hurting Mom. She's crying, Mia. Do you even care?" Crying? Was she crying when she signed the check? Was she crying when she looked me in the face and said my future had dried up while cradling the deed to Ellie's new home? No. So forgive me if I didn't send flowers, didn't respond. Because nothing I could say would ever be enough for them. That had always been the pattern, hadn't it? The unspoken script. Ellie needed something. Mom and Dad made it happen. I was expected to understand. Because I was stronger. More independent. Not the needy one. No one ever asked how heavy that role became. How it slowly erased me. In Seattle, I worked. And for the first time in my life, I was building something that had no invisible strings attached. I helped design a library expansion for a bilingual school. I was paired with a mentor who'd built homes for displaced communities in Guatemala. I got invited to speak on a panel titled "The Architecture of Injustice." That phrase stuck with me, because that's what it felt like, what my life had been. A structure built on uneven foundations. Back home, things were unraveling. I only knew because my aunt, the one who never took sides, sent me a Facebook message. "I'm not saying you were right. I'm not saying you were wrong. But your mom just told everyone you've gone off the rails. And now Ellie's husband lost his job." I reread it 3 times. Not in shock, but in that quiet, still way people feel when something inevitable finally arrives. Brandon, the vape shop guitarist husband, was now unemployed. The house? Too expensive. Too big. Too much for them. Apparently, my parents started helping with mortgage payments, and just like that, their gift became a debt. Another message followed. "Ellie said you owe them an apology for causing stress during a difficult time." The irony nearly split me in half. they'd bought her a life with my savings, then asked me to babysit in it. And now that their plan was cracking under its own weight, I was the problem. But something had shifted. Because the world they built, the one where I was small, quiet, helpful, no longer fit. I was no longer in the basement of their lives. I was outside the house now, looking in and drawing blueprints they'd never understand. Weeks later, my work was featured in an independent design magazine, and they published an interview titled "The Girl Who Was Left Off the Deed" and built a new door. I didn't name my family. I didn't need to. The details were metaphorical. The hurt was universal. The redemption was quiet. Still, Ellie found it. She posted a now-deleted Instagram story calling it "exaggerated trauma" for likes. She even tried to message the magazine. But by then, my name wasn't just a name. It was a brand. I had agents. I had boundaries. I had leverage. Then came the call. My father. His voice was lower than usual. He didn't start with, "How are you?" He didn't start with, "We miss you." He started with, "You've made your point. Enough damage has been done." I let the silence settle. Then I said, "You didn't think it was damage when you stole from me." He sighed. "We didn't steal. We reallocated. Families help each other. You were supposed to understand." "No," I said. "I was supposed to disappear quietly. You expected me to fade into the background." And then softly. "But I designed a way out instead." He hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I simply stood up, walked to the desk overlooking the city skyline, and picked up my pencil. There was more to build. Not for them. For me. Winter came fast in Seattle. The residency was nearing its final weeks, but I wasn't worried. My portfolio had grown. My inbox was full. The mentorship program offered to extend my stay. And that woman from Vancouver, the one with the lakeside property, confirmed she wanted me to lead her design project. Not assist. Lead. I stood on the balcony of the apartment they provided, watching the wind sweep over the city like it was erasing the version of me that once existed, the girl who begged for approval at family dinners. That version was gone, replaced by someone who answered to her own name. But family never stays quiet forever. The holidays rolled around, and with them came the obligatory guilt parade. First, it was a group text. "Mom, we're all getting together for Christmas this year. Everyone wants to see you. Can you come home?" I didn't respond. 3 days later, Ellie. "I'm not mad. Anymore. I know things got blown out of proportion. I just want my sister back." I read it twice, then put my phone down. What none of them knew was that I'd started documenting everything. The timeline, the withdrawals, the screenshots from the 529 account, even the text Ellie once sent bragging, "I can't believe they paid for our down payment. You better not be mad, LOL." I wasn't planning to expose them, but I kept it all, just in case, because something told me they weren't done yet. 2 weeks before Christmas, I got a certified letter from my parents. I sat on the edge of my bed, fingers trembling slightly as I slid the paper out of the envelope. It was a formal invitation to return home and discuss the future of the family structure. They used legal language like restoration of familial bonds and reasonable reconciliation expectations. It was written like a ceasefire agreement, like they were calling a truce with a foreign government. Except there was one line that chilled me Failure to respond may result in your removal from future inheritance consideration. So that was it. Now I was being punished for walking away from the damage they caused. They hadn't changed. They just didn't like that I was changing without them. I posted a sketch that night, a quiet piece, charcoal only. 2 hands reaching through a wall, one trying to pull the other back. The caption? When they can't control you anymore, they'll call it betrayal. The comments were flooded. One woman wrote, "This is exactly what my mom did after giving my college savings to my brother." Another shared, "I thought I was crazy for feeling hurt when my parents paid off my sister's mortgage with money I didn't even know they had. It wasn't just me. I was one of thousands. I didn't go home for Christmas. I spent it walking through Pike Place Market, sipping coffee, sketchbook tucked under one arm. A street performer played violin. A child danced in front of her father. I smiled. No family drama. No fake hugs. No pretending everything was fine under flickering string lights. Just peace." On New Year's Eve, my phone buzzed again. Unknown. Number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press accept. Hello? There was a pause. Then, "It's Brandon, Ellie's husband." My breath caught. I didn't know who else to call. He said, "Ellie's not doing great. She's depressed. She keeps reading your posts. Says everyone hates her." I stayed quiet. I lost the job. The bills are piling up. And now she's blaming herself. I don't know what to do. There it was again. That expectation. That I was the fixer. That I should swoop in and make it better. She thinks if you just talk to her, maybe she could feel normal again. I spoke softly. Tell her I'm not a therapist. Tell her I'm not the villain in her story. And tell her, this house she's drowning in, I didn't build it. Click. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel cruel. I just felt clean. Like I had finally washed off the layers they painted on me. That night, I lit a candle and opened my laptop. The Lakeside Home project was now officially mine. I began with the foundation. Not bricks, not glass. But a question. What does a home look like when no one gets left behind? And as I sketched, I realized something. They took my college fund, but I took back something far more important. Myself. The new year came with heavy rain and silence from my family. For the first time in years, I wasn't on anyone's calendar. No birthdays. No, "Can you come early to help set up?" texts. No guilt-wrapped invitations to smile through another obligation disguised as love. It should have felt lonely. But instead, it felt like freedom. In February, the design for the Lakeside home was accepted. The client, a retired professor, called my sketches emotionally intelligent. She said she'd never met an architect who considered how a room feels after grief moves through it. That stayed with me, because that's what I was doing, wasn't I? Building spaces after the emotional wreckage. Designing walls strong enough to hold stories and scars. One morning, as I sat on the sun-warmed floor of the client's second property, a converted barn turned temporary studio, my phone buzzed. Again, a wedding announcement. From Ellie. Subject line. Save the date. Ellie and Brandon's vow renewal. I blinked. Vow renewal? They'd only been married 2 years. I opened the digital card. The ceremony would take place in spring, at the same house, the one bought with my college fund. The note was drenched in pastels and faux gratitude. We want to re-celebrate our journey and bring together the people who supported us through it. There was a guest list attached. My name wasn't on it. It didn't sting like it once would have. No, it was clarifying. I wasn't a guest in their life anymore. I wasn't even background. I was a ghost. The kind that lives in the attic of their decisions, rattling through walls no one admits are cracked. The same week, a journalist from an online architecture magazine reached out. She'd been following my anonymous work for over a year and pieced together who I was. "I'm doing a piece on non-traditional paths to creative success," she said. "Especially stories where family dynamics forced reinvention." I hesitated, not because I was scared, but because I wasn't sure what version of the truth I wanted to tell. But then she asked something that landed hard. If you had to draw a blueprint of what they took from you, what would be missing? And I knew. It wasn't the money, not even the house. It was being seen, being valued outside of what I could do for them, what I could carry for them. I said yes. The article was titled, "The Architect They Forgot, Until She Became Unignorable." It wasn't cruel. It was measured, honest, not naming names, but making the shape of the wound unmistakable. It included one of my earliest sketches, the attic window drawn from memory. The caption beneath it read, "They gave her the house. But this room belonged to me." The article went viral. My client list tripled in 2 weeks. One of the top design studios in Portland offered a 2-year residency and co-partnership opportunity. Suddenly, I wasn't a name on an invoice. I was the name. 3 days later, I got another message, this time from Mom. It wasn't a long apology. It wasn't even emotional. Just this. "I saw the article. I didn't realize you were in so much pain. I wish you'd told us. We didn't mean to hurt you. Didn't mean to. The oldest defense in the world." I didn't respond. Instead, I posted one more sketch to my account. It was a blueprint for a home with no front door. Just large windows, open, vulnerable, strong. The caption read, "I no longer need their keys. I built my own entrance." A few hours later, Brandon commented under it from a burner account. "You're really going to make this your whole identity?" I didn't delete it. I just let it sit there. Let people see what they couldn't hide anymore. The cracks, the guilt, in disguise. The entitlement rotting beneath their painted smiles. I wasn't their babysitter anymore. I wasn't the quiet sister. I was the woman who survived being erased and redrew herself in ink. The vow renewal went on without me. I saw the photos like everyone else did, not through a text or family group message, but through Instagram's Explore tab. There was Ellie, draped in white lace like it was a second skin, standing under a rose-covered arch in the backyard I paid for. Gracie toddled around in a flower girl dress 2 sizes too big. Dad smiled like a man who didn't remember erasing one child to decorate another's scrapbook. And Mom? She posted a caption beneath, a family photo that read, "When family pulls together, anything is possible. We're so proud of this life we've all built. Together. Together. As if I'd been part of any of it. As if I hadn't been deleted and replaced with the word independent. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I turned off my phone and went back to my drafting table. Because while they were renting white, folding chairs and posing under fairy lights, I had something else in front of me, a deed, with my name on it. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't even a house yet. It was a modest, overgrown lot in a quiet town just outside Seattle, a place where creative zoning laws made it legal to build a live work studio for under $200,000. It wasn't gifted. It wasn't stolen from a fund I never touched. It was mine, paid for with my own earned income, my own contracts, and the royalties from my first design textbook deal. I stood on the dirt, wind snapping at my coat, holding the rolled-up blueprint under my arm. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like someone who lost anything. Felt like someone who outgrew the fire that tried to burn her down. A week later, I received a package. No return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside, a flash drive, a note on torn notebook paper. I thought you should have this. I found it on Dad's old computer. It wasn't right. A. At first I thought it was spam, a mistake, a prank. But when I plugged the drive into my laptop, I knew. It was from Allison, my cousin. The only one in the family who never joined the pile-on. Inside the folder were scanned copies of every document related to my college fund, transfers, logins, emails between my parents and the real estate agent, an entire paper trail showing exactly when and how the money disappeared, including one labeled Final Approval, Education Fund to Escrow Transfer, for E. Morgan. I stared at it. My chest went still, because for so long I had felt betrayed. But now I had proof. I didn't post it. I didn't need revenge porn or call-outs. I filed it. I emailed it to myself under 3 aliases. I stored it in 3 cloud folders. And I called a lawyer. Not because I wanted to sue them. Not yet. But because power is having options. Options they never thought I'd have. That same month, a small university reached out. They asked if I'd be interested in guest lecturing. Topic: Architecture of Autonomy, Reclaiming Space After Inheritance Trauma. I laughed when I read it, not out of mockery, but because the universe had jokes. A year ago, I was scrubbing coffee stains out of bookshop counters and drawing floor, plans on the backs of receipts. Now, I was teaching others how to rebuild from nothing. The day after my first lecture, Mom left a voicemail. "We're trying to keep the family together, Mia. These articles, these interviews, they're turning people against us, against your sister. We don't deserve this kind of public shaming. And you don't have to keep throwing it in our faces. You got your life, didn't you?" Did I? I wondered. I looked around the studio space I'd helped build. My own books on the shelf, my own name on the door. Yes. I got my life. But I didn't throw anything in their face. I just stopped hiding. 2 nights later, Ellie called. Her voice was small. "Mia, I know we've never really talked. Like, not really talked. But I saw the lecture. Someone sent it to me." Silence. I don't know how to say this without sounding like a jerk, but I didn't know how deep it went. I didn't realize. She was crying. I was so wrapped up in surviving, in being the one who got picked for once. I didn't care who got cut out to make room. I closed my eyes. I didn't say, "It's okay." I didn't say, "I forgive you." I just said, "Now you know." Ellie didn't call again. Not after that night. Her silence didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like acceptance. Like the first real acknowledgement that our family wasn't something you patched over with party favors and old photos. It was a structure built unevenly, with one child propped up and the other used for scaffolding, and I had finally stepped out of the frame. By spring, my home studio was nearly complete. It wasn't huge, just one story. Open walls, clean lines, exposed beams and sunlight pouring through clear-story windows. The backyard overlooked a wild slope of pine and lavender. There was a reading nook near the eastern wall, with a built-in bench I carved myself. And above it, a framed copy of the very first sketch I ever posted online. The caption was handwritten in gold ink. They gave her the house. I built the life. The day I moved in, I lit a candle and stood in the middle of the unfinished floor, barefoot, breathing in the scent of cedar and fresh paint. I wasn't thinking about college anymore. Not the fund, not the betrayal, not even them. I was thinking about the girl I used to be, the one who kept everything inside, who let silence swallow her pain because she thought loyalty meant obedience. She was gone now. Or maybe she'd just grown into someone who finally chose herself. The letter came 2 weeks later. Not a text, not an email, a real letter in Dad's handwriting. Inside, a check. A bank check for $47,300, the amount they took. The note was short. You were right. We thought you'd never walk away. But you did. You earned everything and then some. We didn't realize what we'd cost you. If this helps close the chapter, let it. No, we're sorry. No big confession. But it didn't matter, because I'd already stopped bleeding from that wound. They were just now arriving to the scene with a Band-Aid. I didn't cash the check. I placed it in an envelope and tucked it into a drawer marked past. I'd already paid for my life in full, with my effort, my grit, and every silent night I chose growth over revenge. One night, I was invited to speak at a national architecture conference. As I stood behind the podium, lights low, the title of my talk flashed behind me. Designing through disinheritance, creating beauty from what they took. I looked out at a room full of strangers who'd heard my story, followed my sketches, and found pieces of themselves in my journey. And I realized this was never about getting even. It was about getting free. When the applause faded, someone approached me with tears in their eyes. I showed your work to my daughter. She just got rejected from her dream school, and your story gave her hope. I smiled. That's when it hit me. This was the inheritance I wanted all along. Not money, not approval, but meaning, a legacy written in resilience. The last time I drove past Ellie's house, the one bought with my future, it looked smaller. The yard was cluttered with toys. The shutters were fading. The grass needed mowing. I didn't stop. Didn't need to. Because some houses may be bought, but mine was built.